We ain't giving up no mountain. We ain't giving up no tree. We ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice bread, not one garage, not a bit of grass. We love the open country of the Rupununi and the Essequibo. Take time on night, though we may criticize it. This is our home, we love it, and we need to keep it. We have that right, so we ain't giving up no more. We ain't giving up no dream.
Welcome to Facing the Nation for April 21st, 2023. I want to thank you today for joining us. As I usually start my program out by informing you to call up somebody, tell them Facing the Nation is on. Today's program is going to be a very informative and special program as we deal with some of the issues that are current and pending. So call up a friend, tell them Facing the Nation is on. You can log on Channel 6. You can check us on all our Facebook platforms, the People's National Congress Reform page, Facebook, APNU, AFC page, Facebook, and the APNU Guyana page. So, and you, of course, after the show, you'll be able to view the show on our YouTube channel as well. Welcome once again to Facing the Nation. Today, I have with me a very special guest, and we will be talking about the most current issue happening, and that has to do with our local government election issues. And my guest today is none other than Ms. Carol Smith Joseph, and she is the Chief Scrutineer for the APNU. Welcome.
Thank you, Shanika, and I'm happy to be here.
It's always a privilege to have you on the program. Of course, she is no stranger to this program, so I know we got to know her a little bit the last time she was here. We talked about where she was from, etc. And I want to just do what I usually do so, persons have a little lighter side of you. Everybody sees you in politics. I mean, at this point, you're very popular. But, we want to have an idea. We know you've been in politics for many years. How did you get there?
Well, actually, Shanika, I started as a child and going with my mom to PNC meetings. Eventually, we became members of the Young Socialist Movement. And I give credit to a great man, Robert Herman Orlando Corbin, who has molded me from the tender age of 11. And this year, I'll be so proud to celebrate 51 years in this great party.
That's a long time.
Yes, and I'm so proud I'm not going anywhere.
Correct. So I just love that, every person involved in politics, they have their own stories to how they got there. And I mean, you just gave us a very small clip, and it's almost as if you're telling us from birth.
Actually, because if people know, from in our party, there was what we call child membership. So we were members of the party even in our mother's womb. And we got active as we got older. We got more and more active, and today I'm still a part of this great movement.
And going nowhere.
Going nowhere.
All right, so let us get into the conversation in regards to local government election. There is a lot happening. There was words trading between the leader of the opposition, the mouthpiece of the PPP, Barrett Jack View. There was the press conferences yesterday, and there were lots of trading happening. But I want us to talk about some of the issues being unearthed since the nomination day in terms of those lists being handed in.
Okay, I think first of all, members of the public need to understand what happens on a nomination day.
Go ahead.
Now, nomination day would see political parties, individual or groups, who would have had their symbols approved prior submitting lists of participation at the upcoming local government elections. Now, that process entails each party, group, or individual submitting their original documents and a copy of those documents. The returning officer at the various locations, in this case, local government, you have in every NDC area or every municipality. So you would be submitting directly there. They are supposed to collect your documents, check them, and post the copy outside for the general public to view. So that is what we should really talk about first, so people can understand what is, because people ask you, what is this big show on nomination day, what it is all about. I think one of the questions that we see people asking is why you want to have number one and number two and so on. But I don't think anybody wants to be number two. Everybody wants to be number one. And submitting your list at number one, you know, it's good because you have enough time to look for them to go through it and to see if there's any shortcomings, any deficiencies or things like that. So number one is important for anyone. I never wanted to be number two. Just like my party, we're number one.
Correct.
So that's it. But as a result, coming directly to your question, as to some of the issues that would have arisen as a result of nomination day. Now, we have to understand this. After you would have put up the RO would have posted a copy of the submissions for political parties, individual or groups. It is public knowledge. People can now peruse those documents and make objections. And that is definitely what has been happening. People saw their names on lists that they did not sign to, they did not give permission to, and the law is clear. You go to the GCOM's office and you make a complaint that I did not sign this letter, I didn't give anybody permission to put my name there, I would like to have it removed. There is a procedure to do that where a letter has to be written. You sign the letter, copy of your identification card is given to GCOM, and that is it.
All right, so we saw, you just explained basically the process of the objection, and particularly we also saw in the press, based on what was handing out, some of those objection letters. Now we're coming to the point where we're talking about what we've seen in terms of signatures. I mean, the information released to the press yesterday, if you check the comments on social media and everywhere, anyone who looks at that, and I think my operator will maybe put up a sample there, can see immediately that all of those signatures were done by one person. Explain why we're putting this out and what's the importance of that.
Okay. Now, there is a procedure for you to contest political parties, individuals. As we are all aware, local government elections is twofold. You have the constituency aspect, which is first past the post, and the PR aspect, proportional representation. Now, in both aspects, you have to have signatures of people from your LAA area saying that, look, we want you to be our constituency candidate, or we are pleased with the list that is prepared by you for the PR purposes, and they affix their signature to it. But what we found happening is that persons saw their names there with a signature that they, in some cases, they don't even know that their name's there until they saw it on this posted outside of the RO's office. And that is why people were objecting, because you cannot, it is illegal, and it is also a criminal act for someone to forge somebody's signature on any document. So I don't know what is the hue and cry. These it is clear that the persons we know that went forward, these persons voluntarily went because they are concerned that they can sign and say that they signed. And if you look at it, even in some cases you had, take for instance, the person has a female name, it's a male name signing. So you have things like that. Then you have cases like, okay, I want to bring a specific case to your attention. And I dare the PPP to respond to this. The Woodlands Bel Air NDC, that's in region number 5. Now, the PPP submitted their list first. Based on their submission, that list was rejected due to the signature.
Wow.
And the reason for it being objected is because all the signature, the person who signed the signature, one person signed for everybody. They were given time to go back, the law permits, to have it corrected. They came back with it corrected, but not corrected correctly. One person signed for everybody again. And what is more glaring, there is a young woman who died, I think, around the 6th of April.
I think we have that. We can pull it up on the
She
screen.
died on the 6th of April. She was buried on the 12th, I think it was. Nomination day was the 17th. Let us say, for argument's sake, that she would have signed that list prior. No problem. They have no control over that she died subsequently. However, the fact that that entire list was rejected because of signature problems and went back for you to have signatures done, and there and then that woman signed that list and she was buried on the 12th.
Yeah.
So those are some of the issues. Then you're hearing about people intimidating people. Now, nobody, I saw in today's rap paper, the Chronicle, that I have been intimidating people. I've never visited no one's home. Person saw their names and they went into GCON and objected to it. So for Jagdeo to spin that on us, you know, it wouldn't hold because the evidence are there. The evidence are there. There is a case of a young man who went into GCOM because he know that he signed to support a particular candidate in constituency 8 in Union Nasty Guide. But then he saw his name written at the section for the name to write, but the signature now, instead of them signing his name as the signature, they signed his surname. They signed his first name as being his surname in the signature aspect. He went into GCOM. Nobody didn't have to go there.
Yeah.
I remember on nomination day itself, persons keep calling persons and say, here, your name on this list, your name on that list, and people reacted.
Yeah.
So it's now nobody was intimidated. And I dare them to bring any such person who can tell us that any one of those names that they've been mentioning have been intimidating them, that they did so. But they cannot. They want to spin this thing now on us.
And I think that's coming from a place after the evidence, as we've just shown, our viewers surfaced. In that press conference yesterday, when that was brought forward, there was literally no response by Jagdeo to that, rather than to try to say that we're doing the same thing, rather than tell us why in their so-called, in some instances, stronghold. Because what you were talking about, you talked about Region 5, but we're hearing about these things throughout the country.
I'm coming to that. Now, okay, people might want to say, well, okay, I am just targeting them, but in our strongholds. But then we went into their strongholds also and saw that it was a pattern where one person is signing for everybody, and that is illegal and it's a criminal act. And by now, GCOM should have been calling in the police.
Correct.
On that matter, because even in the case of Woodlands Bel Air, when they saw that one person signed that list for everybody and those names are there,
automatically,
the police who was out there
forging signatures.
should have been notified that this here, look, we have a list with people's, we want an investigation, but no, they gave them time to go and change it and to fix it, and they fixed it the same way.
When you come to places like the LA of the one I'm from, Better Hope to LBI, you see the same thing happening. In some cases, it's not the entire sheet, but every 3 or 4 you can recognize is the same person signing, and these are their strongholds that they're talking about. They're going to win this election, and they can't get persons to sign.
Shanika, look, let me tell you, I've been in politics for some time now. The PPP wanted people to feel that this country is red. This country is not red. Because if you were so positive that you have things under your control, why did you go down to that level to sit in some home or some office or some place and sign people's name? You should have been happy to go anywhere and get legitimate signatures to support your list. So that talk about them going red and things like that, it doesn't bother me. Is that we have the evidence to prove that this entire process is flawed. And I want to go further. The way you see things are happening in terms of GCOM, I am very concerned, and I'm about to send off a letter to GCOM, to the CEO, about my concerns. The law is clear. You have to submit, as I said earlier in the program, an original and a copy of everything. That copy is supposed to be put up there. In some offices, they didn't put it up. It has been replaced by typed up something. That is not going to be accepted. GCOM is supposed to be an autonomous body. But as far as I'm concerned, I am noticing GCOM is working with a particular political party. And that is unacceptable. So I am sending a signal out there now to GCOM. Fix this. You have to fix this. Every RO's office must have a copy of every group, individual, or political party that submitted documents to you. I have evidence to show that that is not being done at some of the offices. Just before I came on your program, District 7 called to say that they are waiting. The RO is PG winging, as Guyanese talk, failing to put that list out. I said to the representative to stand your ground. He has to put it out.
Because I think at this point, with everything that is already happening, they don't want to put these lists out because people are going and check the list, take pictures, and it's becoming a problem for them.
No, if GCOM is supposed to be doing their work in keeping with the law, GCOM's mandate is to put a copy of that list out.
For the public.
For the public. Even if there are changes, even if GCOM finds defects on the list, and they have to speak to the political party, individual, or group on it, and they have time to do their corrections, when they bring it in, it has to be placed again on the list. That is the only documents that are supposed to be out there of the RO's office at this moment, is that of submissions of groups, individuals, or political parties.
Now, this leads us to the talk where people are becoming more and more concerned over the last few days in the fact that we have been calling for a clean list. We have been calling for biometrics, and they have been calling for the justice, the head of GCOM,
Justice retired
Claudette Singh. They have been calling for her to go. And more these situations are rising, and we're seeing a greater need for these calls to be intensified. What people want to know is, how do we now push forward? Because the election is not here as yet. And we're seeing GCOM operating in this manner. What is next?
Now, if I am to give my personal standpoint on that,
Mm-hmm.
with what is happening in just the nomination process,
Mm-hmm.
I can say without any form of contradiction that GCOM is not ready for any election at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
There are too many loopholes. The thing about this thing, the laws are clear on elections, local government, regional and national elections. The laws are clear. The procedures that GCOM is supposed to follow are there.
Mm-hmm.
They're in law. These are, if they got to change, they will be changed at other forums. But this is what we are working with.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if GCOM at this stage cannot manage this process in a fair manner,
Just the submission.
this is just submissions and we are already having it rigged.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it that GCOM, the people, in fact, why should the people have any faith in GCOM right now at the moment?
Mm-hmm.
No faith in them because they cannot manage this process.
Mm-hmm.
We're just at nomination stage. Now, one of the things I want to talk to that I'm very, very, very much mad about is the fact that, okay, I speak about groups, I speak for everybody because I'm a Guyanese. And what happened 2 days ago in Wakenham is terrible. The group was approved. They contested their election to run for these elections, submitted their documents, had it accepted, got their letter of acceptance on Tuesday. Wednesday, Minister Indar, Singer, whatever his name, went into Wakenham, went house to house to where those signatures came from, threatened them, and had them go and remove their names.
That's Deodat Indar.
What is his name?
The minister within the Ministry of Public Work.
Now that, Shanika, is unaccepted. I guess by now that group would have made a protest to GCOM. I don't know what is happening at that level. But I'm bringing it to the public, the type of things that are happening. The type of things that are happening. And then for Jack Dio to go on national television and say that we are intimidating people, even me, bring the evidence. We have the evidence of what you are doing.
I do know that the incident you're talking about in Wakenham, that was something that persons started to talk about from the day it happened. And many persons, as they had it, the minister literally went door to door to people's houses.
The same thing happened in Corriverton. Happened in Crabwood Creek area, where they went to these people and they started removing their names. And they tell you, say, they threaten them and they remove their names. So what you find is happening now, people go in and remove names because of a flawed process. GCOM contributed to all of this. GCOM contributed to this because what GCOM was there for is to ensure that this process is transparent and in keeping with the law. From the time you're going to refuse to put up the copy of that list out there, after you had it up and then all of a sudden it disappeared, after person started to object, it means that there is some amount of political control at the level of the commission. And I will have to speak with our opposition commissioners to find out what is happening in there and what they're doing to stop this madness. GCOM is not ready for any election if we're at this stage.
So I will take with all of that information that as the chief scrutineer and as a party as well, there will be for the push to have these issues addressed beyond just us putting them out on social media.
Shanique, I can assure you, letters are being sent. We are not going to sit back, allow this to happen. Put aside all the politics
We are talking about legal procedures that an autonomous body is supposed to follow. Leave the political aspect for now out. We are dealing with the legal aspect of this autonomous body that is supposed to be the body responsible for all elections in Guyana. Now, if we are at the local elections and this is happening, now, what this tells us, the leader of the opposition, the leader of the PNC, the leader of the APA, Aubrey Compton was saying all the time that the list is flawed, biometrics. Okay, bring in biometrics. We had this couldn't happen.
Yeah. You wouldn't have that issue if you go to the polls and you can use your fingerprint.
Exactly.
Nobody has the same fingerprint.
Not talking about fingerprint. It just make me remember. There are persons that are fingerprinters from the day they registered with GECOM to now, because even at their workplace to receive their payment, their fingerprinters. But yet they signed. This is not something to laugh about. People must know what is happening. Obliquely opposite where I live at Hope Town, there is a bedridden young man. For over 4 years, he's visually impaired. And he suffered a stroke about a year ago. He appeared as signing the list. He can't move. His sister went to GECOM.
And they made objections.
The sister said, now GECOM said, you got to bring him. Oh, you listen to the condition of this man. However, eventually she had to go get a letter, the normal thing and so on. And these are the things that they're doing. Because they came into areas that they know they have nobody, but they didn't go there. They stayed at somewhere.
And just,
I guess, must see at Freedom House at Bath.
And pick names.
But they picked the wrong set of people names. We see names on those lists as those people migrated over 20 years and they never come back. But they signed. So I don't know if these forms went up to the states for people to sign or what. But there are persons. The person living just behind me, he migrated about 3 years ago. He's never returned to Ghana, but he signed the PPP list.
So my next question would be, if we are able to get GECOM, by whichever means the party decides to pursue this matter, to correct these issues, in my view, if that is done, we're going to see some of those candidates being withdrawn. Because, for instance, in this one that we're watching, with all signatures being the same, I mean, that list should not go forward. That is so
blatant.
So that means the PPPC then, if GECOM is to do what is right and what is necessary at this stage, we will be seeing some of those lists that the PPP would have submitted being thrown out.
Exactly.
For local government elections.
Exactly.
And once that is done as well, heading into and saying in good faith all of these things happen, the lists are withdrawn where the objections were made, etc., and we move forward to a local government election. Do you believe we will be able to put systems in place as well then to ensure that those results that are had from the election reflect?
Shanika, I like your question. But if at this stage, we just the first part of this race, we have all these issues. Do you feel that we're not going to have issues along the road?
Well, that's why I'm trying to say we're hoping that all these things are resolved.
Right now, that GECOM cannot go forward with this, what is happening. It is not happening in one area. It is happening across the board. And we are not talking about it only happening in what is perceived to be our stronghold. It is happening in their stronghold. You understand? Where they just sat at one place, and that is illegal. And my question is, if GECOM is all about this law,
They were so quick to charge me for what I don't even know about. Why is it that persons have not been charged or have not, an investigation has not been launched into these signatures? Why is it that GCOM is receiving this information of people signing letters saying that they didn't give permission or their names were forged or things like that, and yet they have not yet engaged the relevant authorities on those type of issues? So I have no faith. My party also has no faith right now in GCOM as it relates for the preparations for local government elections, which is just
it's supposed to be less than
a month and a half ago, ahead. So you see what is happening. GCOM should not allow this process to move further unless we can get everything straight.
Well, as our comment section is blowing up, people are saying then we should, therefore, if the police is not brought in and the list is not corrected, then we shouldn't go forward with an election. Persons are saying take GCOM to court. We have a lot of.
No, Shanika, the People's National Congress, which is the major stakeholder in the Partnership for National Unity, will not sit by idly and allow GCOM to get away with this.
And I like that assurance, because that is
we can assure our supporters out there we will not sit back idly and allow GCOM to go ahead with this nonsense.
All right. I think that's what most persons out there want to hear, that level of reassurance that we don't see this reoccurring. Outside of the things we've talked about so far, are there any other things you think you need to share with the public in light of what's happening?
Well, actually, what I want to talk to supporters out there is just to be very, very vigilant, be very careful. Do not attach your signature to any document that you have not read. If you don't know to read, ask somebody who you can trust to read it before you sign anything. Because, Shanika, there were cases where persons would have remembered sometime in last November, there was one particular candidate, a constituency candidate, who came around the area and told them that, well, he's making representation to have their street fixed and you have to get their ID. And, that is the only time that they can recall that, they would have given a signature. Nothing for the extent I recall. I think in Linden, I think this girl, she was told about some scholarship last year. And she wanted to be part of the scholarship. And she just signed thinking that she was going to have this scholarship. But lo and behold, her name appeared as a signatory to the PPP's list. So that is, I want to tell our supporters, be very, very, very careful, because they're deceiving everybody you talk to about their signature. Nobody, those persons who are admitting, yes, they signed, but they didn't sign to that. They signed to some street to be done, or they signed in the case of, I remember in the Union Narstigay nomination day, some of the persons who were on the parade said that they were called to the NDC, they must come and meet at Middle Dam, they're going to get drainage work. Yes, so they went prepared for drainage work. They were given a cap and a jersey.
Wow.
And the tassel drums, and they had to march in. At the end of the process, when they asked,
what happened to the work?
PPP personnel said, we're going to get back to you later. There was some amount of noise, but then the guy in the police force was there to order them out and to go their way. So, and these are people, and what I'm saying about the evidence are there. So, dare anybody to tell me, bring the evidence. The evidence are there. The people were tricked in some cases. Some people willingly went, but there were persons who were tricked into getting something, and that will cause them to go. So I would just want to advise persons out there to be very, very careful in terms of signing documents, ask questions before, and things like that, so that you do not find yourself in this that is happening right now.
So, outside of your portfolio as the chief scrutineer for the APNU, I want to engage you on another matter. Jack Dio, there was a statement Jack Dio made recently, and the video is making its rounds on social media, where he at the parade nomination day, he said to persons there, he's asking Georgetown to give them a chance. And I mean, juxtaposing that. So this morning, I'm sure you may have drove some part of Georgetown in getting here. We see a city that is totally underwater. What do you have to say about that?
Now listen to me. And I am not from Georgetown. My vote wouldn't be counted here.
Yeah.
But I went to school in Georgetown. I lived in Georgetown for a period of time. But as a executive member of this party, I just want to remind the people of Georgetown that if you're talking about inclusiveness and that you're concerned for everybody, I don't want to use that bogus term that they're using now. That is not happening here. Now, we all recall under the APNU AFC government, when rainfall, in less than 50 minutes, there was no water anywhere. Now, this same man who wants to give the PPP a chance to run Georgetown and elected council was there, refused to provide the resources necessary. Now you're saying to the people, give you a chance. So what you're saying to us, if anybody else is running it, that we are not going to give anything. But let us go there and we're going to do what we want to do. No. People be wise. People be wise. If you're watching or you're looking, not only watch, looking at what is happening. Look what happened to the vendors by the hospital. Look what is going to happen. Already they spoke about vending.
This week there was a news article that is saying that the ministry will be clamping down on vending at the seawalls.
Exactly. So everywhere their idea is to satisfy those big business places
and stifle the
small man. When you know that the APNU, the PNC, we have been pushing for the small man to be a real man, so that you can earn, and we're going to ensure that it is done in a structured and organized manner, but not to force people out. So people need to be wise. Georgetown should not allow, under no circumstances, the PPP to put their hands on Georgetown, because we don't want to hear, I told you so. They have to think in the long term and don't worry with Jack Dio.
All right, we'll take that. As we're sharply approaching our close-off time, I know you just made mention and you're not wanting to use that word, but I like to ask all my guests to give their full understanding and view, because everywhere we go right now, you see a sign here, one Guyana, this here, it's as if we're having a brand new motto. Everywhere you turn in Guyana, you're seeing this mantra of one Guyana. And, I like when my guests address that issue particularly. Your thought.
I guess the one Guyana sign that we're seeing exactly what it is. That Guyana is just for one set of people, because that is evident everywhere. If you go through the length and breadth of our country, you will see, you can pinpoint without even asking where one set of people live compared to where the other set of people live.
Mhm.
And for you to get up to tell us about One Guyana is a shame. Look at the resources that are, in terms of development, that are plugged into communities.
Mhm.
If they spend $5 in what they perceive to be a AP and UFC community, $5 million is spent in their community. There is no equity in nothing. In some cases, there is no development, period,
Mhm. Mhm.
because that community, they say, don't vote for them.
Mhm.
So for you to be using this One Guyana thing, somebody needs to take action to stop them from doing it. You know, I think I need to consult with a lawyer if I can move forward to have them stop using that word. I can bring evidence to show that there is no One Guyana
Mhm.
here. Our motto is one people, one nation with one destiny.
Mhm.
But One Guyana, no, it's not going to work. It's not working. It's not practicable in terms of what we're seeing. So if the One Guyana they're talking about, I guess that their aim is to have one set of people in Guyana, I guess. That's the only way I can see One Guyana meaning anything.
All right. So just before we close off here today, I am not sure if you have most of those offices in your head, but for now, let's say in Region 4, basically, because most of our viewers, at least on Channel 6, will be viewing from Region 4. Where can they visit basically to go see those lists that we're talking about to
Okay,
do
if
their own check?
you said Region 4, so I will have to start with the East Bank.
Mhm.
If you're living on the East Bank, you can go to the Susdike office, the Haruni NDC office, you can go to the Diamond office, you could go to Eccles Ramsburg office. If you are in Georgetown, Critchlow Labor College is where the office is for this particular period. On the East Coast, as you know, Shaniko, you have the industry office,
St. Paul,
St. Paul's. We have the various offices
Montrose,
within the
DC.
NDC area. Where there's municipality, there's a particular place for that municipality. In Region 5, there are 10 NDCs, so there are 10 RO's offices. If you're starting from the Mahaika end of the region, you'll have one at Zealand, you'll have one at the end at Hamlet Chance at Stratcampbell Primary School. You will have at the Myconia Barry NDC office. You come into the West Berbice half of Region 5. You will have at the Prophet Rising Sun NDC. You will have at Seafield Tempe NDC, Union Nasty Guide NDC. You will have at Bath NDC. You will have at the Woodlands Bel Air NDC office. In that area, they utilize most of the NDC offices. You will have Rosignol Zealous NDC office and the Blairmont Guilderland NDC office. In Region 6, similar wherever the NDCs are, and then in the township. And that is happening across the board.
All right.
So persons, as long as if you're living in a municipality, you go to that RO's. There's one office for that municipality. But if you're living in an NDC area, in every NDC area, there's an RO office attached.
All right. So I would like to, let me give you the opportunity to give any last comments before we close off.
Okay, I want to take this opportunity to tell our supporters that you have to have faith in us. We have your backs. We are going to ensure that the PPP does not get their hands on our strongholds, and we are going to make inroads into their communities. Just stay the course with us. But in the meantime, I can assure you, we will hold GCOM accountable for all these problems that we are having. And we're going to take action to ensure that it is fixed before any election is held in this country.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, it's always a pleasure having you on Facing the Nation. And be sure we will invite you again during this period to keep us updated in what is happening. All right. My viewers, once again, I would like to thank you for joining us and, being with us. You were in the comment section talking to us, interacting, and we will continue to view those comments and, interact with you. So I want to thank you again for looking at Facing the Nation. Join us next week, same time, 12:30 to 1:30. Do remember to keep updated. Follow our social media platforms, the People's National Congress Reform page. There is a new page. So I ask that you, go ahead and check for that page and follow us. You can also follow us on the APNU AFC page. And there is also the APNU page on Facebook. And of course, on YouTube, there is the People's National Congress Reform page. And that way, you'll be kept up to date. Thank you once again for joining Facing the Nation, and do have a pleasant good afternoon.
'Cause we ain't giving up no mountain. We ain't giving up no tree. We ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice bread, not one garage, not a bit of grass. We love the open country of the Rupununi and the Essequibo. Take time on night, though we may criticize it. This is our home, we love it, and we need to keep it. We have that right, so we ain't giving up no